This is Anu from Alberta-India Chamber of Commerce and to V4U Radio for giving us a chance to record this podcast. I'm meeting Minister Sawhney after our India visit, so I'm very grateful that you took out time for us, Mr.
Well, thank you very much. It's wonderful to see you again. Of course, we spent a lot of time together in India talking about business development, talking about energy, agriculture, you name it. And I'm deeply appreciative of your role with the Alberta-India Chambers and everything that you do.
Well, I am just a face to a chamber. Of course, it will be a remiss if I do not mention the few names who have really worked very, very hard to bring us where we are, to our executives, Vishal Zaveri, Puneet Manchanda, Dr. Rajan Sawhney, who have always worked very hard and have given me an opportunity to be the face of the chamber, to really promote the activities. We are very, very happy to say that we are self-proclaimed but economic ambassadors for Alberta. We know we excel and we really can be the connector between India and Canada, which is energy. So today, if you allow me, I'm going to just focus my discussion only on energy.
I think it's a great idea, given what's happening in the world, the geopolitics of the certain situation right now in the Middle East. I think it's just a very relevant topic to be discussing.
Do you see an increased opportunity for Alberta's oil and gas, LNG, clean tech in the Indian market? And if there is an opportunity, what are the roadblocks as well?
Well, I think that's a brilliant question. There are tremendous opportunities. If we watch the news in terms of what's in demand in India right now, it's LPG. And we had lots of discussions with some of the state oil and gas companies there about what they're looking for. Obviously LNG, but LPG was really at the top of the list. And I think as we're talking about what's happening geopolitically and energy security and trying to make sure that those demands in their local economies are met, there has to be a relationship with Alberta. We have the 4th largest reserves in the world when it comes to oil, 9th largest when it comes to natural gas. And we are working very diligently on trying to get additional egress developed to the West Coast. So we know India will be a customer in the future. We know that we have to keep these conversations going.
So do you believe that the deeper collaboration in the conventional and the renewable energy could be the long-term foundation for India-Canada relationship?
I believe that the India-Canada relationship is already improving. You know, so the energy is one thing, where it's a mutual relationship that is beneficial to both countries. But even aside from that, we've seen diplomatically that relationships are improving. Prime Minister Carney was there not too long ago. I was there, First Minister from Alberta to visit in a long time. My colleagues, MLA Shane Getson, Jackie Lovely, were there. So that is really good news, is that the relationship is improving. The Alberta-India relationship is getting better and better day by day. But when it comes to energy, we obviously know that the demand is there. We know that India has some expertise in hydrogen, particularly green hydrogen, even though that's not what we're talking about now. But we have a lot of product here, and we know that LNG Canada started its first shipments last year, so there's more potential for LNG. When it comes to energy, it's going to be the most critical relationship that we have between the two countries.
From a policy and industry standpoint, what are the key steps do you think we need to take, Alberta has to take to strengthen the bilateral relations, not only between India and Canada, but of course Alberta being the conduit in this? Any remarks on that?
I do, but before I get into that, I just want to thank you for your comments around, my interest in energy, and I come by it honestly. I worked in the energy sector for over 2 decades before getting into politics, and one of the key reasons I got into politics is because I wanted to build pipelines. So finally, I have an opportunity to do that, working with Indigenous communities both in Alberta and BC. And it's critically important work, especially now when we're seeing what's happening in the world. But in answer to your question, I know that any bilateral trade discussions that will happen, it'll happen between Canada and India. And the Prime Minister, both Prime Ministers of India and Canada have agreed to move forward on that. In terms of Alberta, I think we need to just keep talking about the infrastructure that needs to be built here. We can continue talking about our agricultural industry as well, and also talking about technology transfer and knowledge exchange, because here in Alberta, we are the experts in CCUS, we're the experts in SAGD, we have a hydrogen roadmap. There's so many different facets of the energy story that we're quite strong in. And so that conversation and that knowledge exchange, whether it's through post-secondaries or conferences, we have to make sure that we're very diligent in keeping that connection alive. And I will just say right now, we've got the Global Energy Show happening in June. And I had given a verbal invitation to some of the state oil and gas companies in India to attend this. I don't know if what's happening right now with all hands on deck in India to try to maintain and secure supply. I'm not sure who will come out to that conference, but I will follow up.
What should a chamber like Alberta India Chamber of Commerce do to facilitate more strategic partnership, more strategic relationships, especially within the energy sector, and help the province grow further?
Brilliant question. Well, let me brag about the Alberta India Chamber as well.
Thank
I
you.
know you have, but let me brag about you guys too. I think the fact that you are getting key meetings with federal ministers in India is incredible, almost unheard of. You had a meeting with Minister Piyush Goyal, and I think just telling him the Alberta story, and obviously he's brilliant, he's a good listener, was critically important because that is half the battle. And it's not just a role of government, it's not just a role of industry, it is also the role of not-for-profits like the Chamber to talk about Alberta's value proposition. And the more you do that, the more people are educated as to what we can offer here in Alberta. And sometimes they say that you have to repeat messages 3 or 4 times before the message penetrates. So when you do that work in conjunction with what we're doing, it's again, it's at that all hands on deck approach. And I would say just keep doing what you're doing, connect with businesses in India, connect with government officials wherever you can, because that is how we will spread more knowledge and information about our industries here.
We have been talking about the West Coast pipeline expansion, and we all support as much as we support. Um, we always hear about some key stakeholders, and it's very important to talk about the legalities around it, logistical stakeholders or issues and environmental issues. Would it be ever a reality of having a very constant flow of our crude to India? Because in 24 we shipped almost 2 million barrels of oil to the largest refinery in India, which is Reliance, purchased it, which is a huge win. So I know the logistically we know, but then there's a stop. It's not a constant. Do you ever see it become a reality for Alberta and India, just energy flowing?
I do. I do see this in the future. You know, it is a long-term project. We have to get the critical infrastructure built. We have to get the pipeline built. We know that there are customers on the other end who are very eager to get our volumes of energy. And of course, you're right. From the U.S. Gulf Coast, a lot of Alberta oil flowed down there and it flowed to the refineries in India. That has happened. I know that some of the discussions I had with some of the state companies indicated that the economics seem to be challenging from the West Coast, but of course, the economics have changed overnight.
Completely.
And I think everybody has to think in ways that are innovative and creative and think about long-term security. So here in Alberta, we are very much focused on getting this pipeline built. And it involves working with Indigenous communities here in Alberta and BC and making sure that there's real benefits for them, like equity participation in the pipeline. And on the other end, we're going to focus on working on our potential customers. That's a key reason I was in India, because I think people know a lot about the Middle East. They know a lot about Venezuela and the United States. But when I talk about the reserves that we have here in Alberta and our asset base, it really is a big shock and a surprise. Maybe not to the sophisticated oil and gas companies in India, but to the general public and some of the policymakers. I had to repeat it. They said, "What? How many barrels do you produce a day? Where are you?" So just going back to your question, yes, it will happen. When it will happen, I can't tell, but it has to happen within probably the next 7 to 10 years, I would say.
To viewers who do not know, Alberta produces 4.5 million barrels of oil every day, and then entire India's requirement is right now currently 5 million barrels a day. So
Yeah,
if at
I
all
think
we
we're
look at
closer to 5 as
right,
well. What we're
right,
producing is what they need. Yeah.
exactly.
Yes, and I think you said something very important here, and that important word is reliable. And that's what Canada, what Alberta can
Yep.
guarantee, is that when somebody is thinking about their portfolio and their energy mix, what Canada and Alberta offer is reliability, it's a low carbon production, it's ethically produced production. And I think, a country like India, yes, you can find, cheaper sources, you can find more economical sources, but you do need to have that reliability and consistency and certainty built into the portfolio. And that is something that I emphasized at all the tables that I visited, that economics is important, but you also have to have a diverse portfolio. We all know that when we talk about our own financial portfolios, when it comes to energy, those portfolios also have to be diverse.
Based on your recent visit, meeting with such high profile ministers, diplomats, universities, and I was watching it all as you were doing it, and you were such a great representative and speaker. I mean, as your roundtables we attended, I want to know from you, from the general business environment which you
Mhm.
were kind of observing, what are some of the low hanging fruits other than just energy where Alberta businesses can take advantage of the growing economy, plus also bring some good manufacturing or something. So, what are the few low hanging fruits you observed in your visit?
Well, I think there is a lot of conversation with folks there who have capital. They want to invest. They're looking for opportunities. So we had conversations around data centers, and
Mhm.
of course, we are have developed a policy framework here in Alberta. Agriculture came up time and time again because there is tremendous potential to actually develop, more facilities here. If somebody's interested in bringing capital here, we know that pea protein is something that's very popular in India. There's so
Mhm.
many vegetarians there, and it's the world's fastest growing economy. That if there's a desire to invest in infrastructure here to help facilitate that industry, that there's opportunities. And I think on the post secondary side, because I used to be the Minister for Advanced Education, it comes back to, how can we set up satellite
Mhm.
campuses in India and have degrees and programs that are reflective of our growing economy, and vice versa? How do we have student exchanges happening? So those were some of the business conversations we had, but ultimately, I know most of the conversation was around energy.
I know.
Yeah.
So, recently, the two prime ministers met, Prime Minister Carney and Prime Minister Modi, and of course, SIPA is world is watching,
Yes.
which we feel that, and we believe that we may have the final sign up by the end of 2026. But I was reading, there was almost 48 line items where does SIPA has anything more to offer to Alberta, and if not, how can we ensure that we get the share in the pie?
Well, Alberta always sends our priorities to the federal table, and I think a lot of those priorities are going to be around agriculture, as far as I'm aware, and somewhat on the energy side too. But I think going back to what you said, if this can be negotiated in a very expedited fashion, that'll be a huge win. So we are certainly going to watch the federal government closely in terms of how these negotiations go and make sure that Alberta is represented well. But it's going to be a win for both countries if we can do this quickly because it has been dragging for years and years. And we have flipped a page in our relationship. And I think that's going to be helpful too. So, as I said, Alberta has a center of priorities, mainly agriculture. There could be something on the post secondary side. I'll have to, confer with my colleague in advanced education.
Last question. I know time is always of essence, and you've been very kind. However, this question I think would be very close to your heart because I
Uh-huh.
feel as much as Alberta is such rich in indigenous population, so is
Hmm.
India. And the
Yes.
tribals, being 29 provinces, every province is proudly still restoring or maybe holding on to the values. Do you see the two sides, indigenous of Alberta's, kind of having some programs with the tribals of India's and doing something on that side too?
I'm not 100% sure what that will look like, but I do think there will be some movement there. I was speaking to the High Commissioner, Dinesh Patnaik, and I think he's putting together some sort of a delegation of Indigenous chiefs. I know that one of my friends here was mentioning that some of the chiefs will be attending that to really liaise with tribal communities in India. So that project, I believe, is underway. When I went to visit him recently, I had my deputy minister, Donovan Young, with me as well. And so I know that they're connecting to make sure that we have some Indigenous representation from Alberta. But it's important. It's cultural exchange. It's understanding each other's experiences and how to grow and how to evolve and how to support each other. So I'm very supportive of that. I would love to go with this delegation. I don't think it's possible. I just came back from India, but I fully support it.
Well, I'm sure Indians would certainly welcome you with their warm hearts and arms open, because they really found Indian-looking Albertan kind of visiting them. So always the language and the culture and the value system always bring the people together. That's it for all for now, folks. We had a great privilege of talking to Minister Rajan Sawhney, Minister of Indigenous Relations. This is we for you as well. Already Alberta-India Chamber of Commerce signing off. But thank you so much for giving us time.
Oh, thank you very much. It was
Thank
a
you.
pleasure.
Thank
Thank you.